Last week on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Dr. Mbenga actually murders a Federation ambassador as we learn that not all Star Trek is perfectly fit for children, while the producers and writers of Strange New Worlds make every effort in their power to traumatize both the Doctor and Nurse Chapel, all while allowing us as viewers to prepare our vocal cords for today's much anticipated and highly teased musical episode. Just a quick reminder that I do not do spoiler-free reviews, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, be sure to go watch it and then join back in on the discussion. And with all that being said, let's get right into it. Y'all like to sing? I really do enjoy singing. One day I'd like to be able to sing like a whole coherent song and actually be good at it, but right now I'm not that good, just trying to get better. Was really excited when they announced that they are boldly going where they've never gone before, in the form of a full musical episode having the entire cast sing and dance in unison and boasting an original soundtrack. It is over the usual like 46-minute format, and we're getting around the 55-minute mark, which is really cool because they are just giving us a measly 10 episodes a season, and we're already on the penultimate episode and it came quite fast. It is good to know as a viewer that I am getting that extra 10 minutes of content on the episodes where it really counts. Today's episode starts off with the Enterprise arriving at the Rainbow Road from Mario Kart. I mean, a random subspace fold, and they beam over Lieutenant Kirk because he's there to spend some time on the Enterprise and kind of shadow Una to gain some experience. No, a lot of people are going to be upset that he's there so much because the TOS really made it seem like him and Captain Pike were just acquaintances, with him making a remark that he just met Chris when he was promoted to fleet captain. And while that did happen this season, I think it's perfectly fine to have him on the ship as long as they keep their distance and he doesn't end up interacting with Captain Pike all too much. Honestly, this episode did that for me because while Captain Kirk was around, you can just tell that Captain Pike's attention was more so focused on people singing and dancing around him and not so much getting to know Captain Kirk. I think it would be very flawed if Captain Kirk showed up enough in Strange New Worlds to the point where it seems like him and Captain Pike have some kind of relationship or they have past adventures, making the TOS seem a little bit inaccurate. Also, it bothered me and peeved me off a little bit that when they beamed Lieutenant Kirk aboard and they read the note from his captain, that they didn't feel the need to identify who his captain currently is. I want to know if it's Captain Garavik or if he has been killed by the giant red cloud monster. Insane to see that they are finally explicitly getting to Nurse Chapel's relationship with Dr. Corby, as she has been accepted into his exclusive archaeological fellowship. Been referenced twice in 2 previous episodes. One, I'm pretty sure we just saw his name on a pad, and in another episode where Nurse Chapel just decides to reference him by name. Really want to find out if we're going to see a live-action Dr. Richard Corby brought to Strange New Worlds. It would be the ultimate fan service for me, because I just love what little girls are made of. It's one of my favorite Star Trek episodes of all time. You could easily put it up in my top 20 or 30 list, and it's just because it's so Twilight Zone-y, goofy, and it's just the one instance in the TOS where they actually take the time to give Nurse Chapel any type of backstory or lore, so that's another reason why I really like it. You've got to really appreciate how they go about them being influenced by the Subspace Fold and how it forces them to actually become High School Musical and have all of the crew members sing and dance and reveal their feelings in unison. Spock gets the idea that he could use the Subspace Fold as a way to increase the rate at which subspace communications travel by about 3 times, and then Uhura, while helping him with this problem, comes up with the idea of utilizing harmonics in music, and we also get to see Pelia behind a console acting like she's doing some engineering, which she has not done any real engineering this season. I love her, she's really funny, and I've gotten over the fact that Hemmer is gone, but guys, at least Hemmer actually did some engineering before. Doesn't seem like Pelia's really done all that much. So Uhura beams through the Great American Songbook into the Subspace Fold, and the Subspace Fold doesn't really like it all that much. It gets upset and then vomits that information back out onto the Enterprise crew, forcing them to sing and dance for the rest of the evening. When the singing finally started after they were influenced by the little fold, I was really happy. The cast sounded so great. They're all very talented actors. From my perspective, it seems like it's almost a stipulation if you're acting at this level that you need to be able to sing on key, and you just need to be able to sing well. The two best singers, in my opinion, are Christina Chong and Celia Rose Gooding. They just basically made the episode. I think Christina Chong does covers on a YouTube channel somewhere. If those two weren't there, I could see this episode really dropping the ball and missing the mark, because they're actually talented and their voices are just pleasant to the ears, and we needed them to make it seem like this was a real Disney film. The two worst singers, I'm sad to report, are definitely Anson Mount. He has no range, and it seemed like he was really trying super hard to sing in that one scene where he was revealing his feelings to Captain Patel. And then there are a couple instances where I was sitting in my chair back here cringing at Una Chin Riley's actress's performance, because I don't think she's a terrible singer. She's actually a really good singer. There were just a couple times where the lyrics and the songs that she was singing weren't that good. Anybody who is criticizing them for doing a musical episode before it actually came out, you're crabby, you're a Karen, and you're lame. For one thing, Star Trek is just littered with musical elements. Ever since the beginning, they have been singing. Like, don't tell me you guys forgot about "Hey Brother!" Don't forget about 7 of 9 and the Doctor singing in the medical bay. All those scenes are really good and integral to Star Trek, and for you to act like Star Trek is too good for a full musical episode, no. Come on, get out of here with that nonsense. You are a lame-o and you're probably not fun at parties. First scene that made me actually laugh out loud was when Lon first started singing, because she accentuated her voice and made it really dramatic. I want somebody who's educated in musical theater to tell me what type of technique she was using right there that was so different, that really contrasted against the rest of the crew members singing, but just made me laugh. I really liked how dramatic it was. This is the second time, I'm pretty sure, this season that they've actually taken the time to modify the opening intro for Strange New Worlds today. I don't think they modified it graphically, but the audio actually had like a barbershop quartet singing the Star Trek opening theme, and that was really cool. It would not be a Gannon review if I didn't mention how good the Jeffries tube was looking today. This is gotta be the 5th time I'm making a comment about the Jeffries tube, but they keep on finding ways to implement it into the episode and make it look even better. There's a scene where Paul Wesley's Kirk is looking down in the lens, is, looking up towards him, and he's talking to Una. You can just see that they had copy and pasted the Jeffries tube behind him so that it looks like it's going up perpetually, into this really big and long starship, and it just looked amazing. Great job, them just finding new ways to impress me with that Jeffries tube. Officially the best looking Jeffries tube in Star Trek history. Favorite and least favorite musical numbers are right next to each other. My least favorite being the musical number where Una just starts singing to Lieutenant Kirk in the hallway, giving him advice on why it's okay to be a little bit open and interactive with your subordinates as a commanding officer. Like I said before, there are just a couple lyrics and a couple cringy things that Una Chin Riley's character does when she's singing in that musical number that didn't really entertain me and didn't keep me engaged as a viewer like the other ones did. But the musical number that they followed up with right after that, the one where Lon is singing to herself in her room and opening up about how she can't share her feelings with Lieutenant Kirk about the alternate timeline version that she fell in love with and that got killed. Everything about that song number was so good. I loved every lyric. Christina Chong did such a good job singing the actual song, and it just really kept me engaged, whereas the previous one did not at all. At the 33-minute point, they get a subspace communication from some very good-looking Klingons. Another example about how every time we see the Klingons in Strange New Worlds, they seem to be building on that modern appearance and just improving it. Got me excited because why else would they put Klingons in the musical episode if they weren't going to have them sing later? By God, was I not prepared for what they were about to do. Is anybody else finding it really hard to like Nurse Chapel right now? And I say that out of a place of love, because Jess Bush's Nurse Chapel is like my new television crush right now. But at the same time, I don't know if I could Forgive her for hurting my boy! Spock and Nurse Chapel are going to break up and not be together for a long while, and it happened today in this episode. Spock foolishly decides to approach Nurse Chapel about her fellowship while this anomaly is going on. The result of that is having his closest friends and colleagues do a confident jig in front of him about how Nurse Chapel is more than willing to just drop him like a sack of potatoes at the moment her career starts to get a little bit fun. That just makes me question how much Nurse Chapel actually valued and cared about Spock in the first place. And I just think that Nurse Chapel at this point is a walking red flag. Watching Nurse Chapel sing and dance to Spock about how she is breaking up with him and then not apologize afterwards really made me think that I do not feel bad for her now when Spock threw that plomeek soup at her in the TOS. She deserved that. She deserved that plomeek soup from a mile away. You knew it was coming, Christine. The rhetoric she was using in today's episode really scared me and made me think that she might be leaving the show for a prolonged period of time. But then I got to thinking that she just mentioned that it was going to be 3 months, and I think that that is a similar amount of time that Lon left the crew to go and help that Gorn little girl survivor. You know, one of the most useless things they ever did. They really didn't need to have Lon go do that. Final musical number was amazing, mostly because Celia Rose Gooding is just so good at singing. Had the entire cast sing and dance together, and if you've ever seen those videos of Michael Jackson singing, all the other artists and them doing their collaboration songs in the 80s, that's what they probably looked like in the studio while recording this. Those lyrics talking about the Enterprise and its crew coming together to solve their problems. Just a great ending song, but I am not going to ignore that they might have committed one of the most egregious sins I have ever seen to date in a Star Trek episode. When they finally get the Klingons on screen, they decide that it is a good idea to make them do a K-pop musical number. No! No! God! This might be one of my coldest takes to date on the channel because I really don't like to have takes this cold, but that Klingon K-pop dance scene was respectfully appalling. That is the worst thing that I have ever seen. There is no explanation for that. Stated previously in the episode that Uhura had beamed over, like, the Great American Songbook. So why on earth would the Great American Songbook influence the Klingons to dance and sing like that? It's just way too silly. It makes no sense. It didn't look good. It was quite cringe. I did not like seeing the Klingon warriors do that. I looked at that scene and I had to rewatch it 3 times, trying to physically force my body to be comfortable and like it, and I just couldn't. You could have done that in Lower Decks, but for them to do it in Strange New World, this is even more insane when you consider that not just 4 years ago they were trying to make the Klingons the scariest thing imaginable, like they ate Captain Georgiou alive, and then in last week's episode you had Mbenga murdering a bunch of Klingons in a really violent war, and then this week you have them doing like a side Klingon dance like Gangnam Style. What are you guys doing? I feel like I'm a big hater. I feel like I'm overreacting. I feel like I finally met something that makes me seem like a crabby hater. Aside from that, this episode was amazing. It made me feel very many emotions. The musical numbers were sincerely good. Out of the whole set list, there were maybe only 1.5 songs of content that I didn't appreciate. Brilliantly executed aside from the dancing Klingons. They danced too silly and I didn't like it. This episode has got me pressing X to doubt on my TV crush Nurse Chapel. Like, girl, how are you breaking up with Spock this badly when you're only leaving for 3 months? You are already probably thinking about smashing Dr. Corby right now. I think you're a bad girlfriend. This episode gets a 7.5 out of 10 purely because it's really good, it's entertaining, fun. I love seeing every character just sing their feelings out. The scene with Lon and Kirk, where Lon finally admits her feelings, and Kirk references Dr. Carol Marcus and actually his son David. That was really cool to see as well. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10. It would have gotten a higher score if that Klingon scene did not exist. Whoever wrote that and greenlit it might need to be jabbed a couple times with some pain sticks. But what do you guys think? Are you as bothered by that scene as I am? Am I an outlier? Am I just being a little bit crabby? Please let me know down in the comments section below. I enjoy comments more than anything in the world. They're my favorite favorite thing about the platform. If you're enjoying any of the content on the channel, I'd be very flattered if you were to subscribe once we hit 10k subscribers. I am going to be dressing up as my favorite Star Trek Xenos, and I'm going to film a funny video on public. If you enjoyed the video, I would very much appreciate it if you slap the like button. With all that being said, see you next week when we review the season finale. Live long and prosper.
Get out!